Yeah, so it's your fault that Greg's fault as well.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of our
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of the Distiller's Perspective here on Northwest Bourbon. It is Thursday night. It's getting late. It's time to get in for a drink. And we have got a special episode for you for the Distiller's Perspective. Episode number 17 already, guys. This has been going just awesome. So what the show is about, if you are in the Pacific Northwest or you are a veteran-owned whiskey brand, we want you on the show. Do a fun interview with you, live stream, audience participation, highly encouraged, mandated almost. So come on and tell us what you're all about, and we'll help spread the word to the rest of the community. If you're catching this on the replay, go to the video description, and tomorrow I'm going to watch the video again and put in links to the different conversation topics that come up throughout the conversation. That way, if it goes over an hour and you don't have time to watch it, there's something certain you want to listen to, you can go to that link in the conversation navigation and jump right to that point, right to that topic. And we're the only ones on YouTube that does that. All right, so tonight on our channel, we have got Jesse from Doc Swinson. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for having me here. Really appreciate it. Oh, we already got that glass going. All right, I'll pull my bottle.
Absolutely. All right, so what I just poured, my first glass of the night, is a local single barrel pick of the Doc Swinson's bourbon. It's 122.7 proof. And when I did a review of this bottle, I couldn't stop talking about it. I love all the information you guys put on the bottles. Thanks.
No, I really appreciate that. And that's amazing. You found a 122. We don't get a lot of 122 proof barrels up here from our stock. So that's epic. And yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Part of the reason why we put so much information on our bottles, maybe it's an information overload for some people, but it's to show you that we are transparent. You know exactly what you're drinking and all the little details if you're willing to sometimes, take your time to look into it. That's important to us as a company.
Me too. And not to get into a deep subject like right off the bat, but when it comes to sourcing, one of the analogies I use is like, tell me what you're working with, right? Tell me what I'm buying. Because if I had a pizza stand, but I was serving DiGiorno with my own toppings that I put on top, like, tell me that, and maybe I'll still like it. But if you try to tell me it's your own homemade thing and that you're a pizza chef, I'm not gonna be happy. And so you guys being completely transparent and like your passion with it and your efforts into making something great each time you guys make a blend, that's one of the things that I love about you guys.
No, thank you. That was something that we wanted to start off the company with right off the bat, was telling people who we were and everything we're working with. I mean, down to if you look at one of our bottles or you pick up a bottle of ours and you look at the release number on it, you can go to the website and you can look up all the details that we can post about the products.
Okay, so you have each individual batch outlined on your website?
Generally, now you have to keep in mind, sometimes we're a little slow at keeping up with it. So we are a teeny company. There's a total of 8 of us plus a small PR team that helps us out. That includes full bottling, production, dumping barrels. That's blending. That's graphic design. That's sales. That's our CFO. That's everything. There's 8 of us.
Okay, so that's literally one of my questions right here is how many are in your crew? Got it. You were reading ahead. Fine.
I'll try not to too much, but no, the point is we're a small company, and so it does take us a little time sometimes to update our website. We're actually doing a full revamp of it currently. But otherwise, yes, the information is online, so you can actually see the types of casks that we use, the sizes of the casks that we use, sometimes where they were from. Not always the case, because we do work with a lot of different cask types here. I mean, for example, I put out 15 unique cask types last year alone. And they all have done actually really well in the market, which is kind of cool. So we've definitely made our name in the game as consistently excellent for all of our releases, which is not an easy task to do, my friend. That's what I've learned.
That's even more than I knew of beforehand. We've already got a bunch of people in the chat. We've already got people lining up in the backstage that know how this works. So let me just say hi to them real quick. Bourbon Baller Lee, you better jump back and ask Jesse a question. Tracy, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Mayfield's in the house. What's up, buddy? Marvin is here. Whiskey Wine 101. He's in Auburn. Tater Dom, it's cracking. Samoan Barkeep, what's up, Tully? You better jump in here and ask a question too, there, Chief. You have the 122 as well. That's freaking sweet. You see what I gone and did right here? I pinned the link. All right, so Jesse, the way that our game show works is it's called the Revolving Door of Questions. We want to keep the conversation and topic focused on you and Doc Swinson's. And so if I bring a bunch of people on the panel and they just start chit-chatting, next thing you know, we're comparing how big our dogs are, what places we work at, and that Chevys are better than Fords or some nonsense. Absolutely not. I'm going to maintain command and control, okay? So I'm going to let some person on. They're going to ask you a direct question. You're going to answer them, have a little nice moment, chatting about it. Then I'm going to kick them off, and then we'll bring the next person on, right? It's a revolving door. Now, see, incentive, though. So all you guys that do not know this game in the chat right now, your incentive, if you jump on and ask a good question, you will get put into the Wheel of Names. There is going to be a raffle giveaway at the end of the stream, and Jesse and I were just talking about it backstage. We're really pumped up about what we're going to be throwing out to you guys if you jump on and ask a question. Ooh. All right, so you picking all that up, Jesse? You tracking the gameplay?
Yeah, absolutely. Just correct me, steer me the right direction if I wander too far. I'm a classic tangent person. So,
no, that's one of the reasons why we made this channel is because me and my crew of Army guys that I was with when we created Northwest Bourbon is we started going to local distilleries around like Pierce County and the Seattle area and found we just loved talking whiskey and we could do it all day. Yeah, and the people that worked at the distilleries, they just love talking about whiskey with other like-minded individuals, other enthusiasts, and so that's one of the reasons why we started this thing. So when you talk about going off on a tangent, you can already tell it's kind of what us whiskey guys do, right?
Amen. I love it. Yeah.
No,
cool.
All right. Rob is in the house. Rob, Whiskey Edition. You better jump on and ask a question. Rob's always got great questions. It's good stuff. Come on, Lou. What's up, Lou? Good to see you.
Preparing myself here.
Possum Crew. Hey, good to see you, Possum Crew. My dog is 30 pounds. My dog is 150 pounds, Mr. Sneak. Gotcha, beat. Next. No. Respect. That's how a panel should be run. Yes, maintain command and control. That's why you guys are here. Howdy, Jesse. Scribe of the Spirits. What's up? What's up? Hello, Northwest Bourbon. Hey, thanks for being here. No pressure. Yeah, no pressure. I just told you how good questions he asked. All right, so Charred and Twisted, are you ready? Yeah, okay. And yeah, you're next over there. What's going on, Will?
How's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for jumping on so early.
Oh man, unfortunately, it's just one half of Charred and Twisted. Obviously, the better half is not here. She's taken ill.
No.
Which is a bummer. Because we love your whiskey.
Oh yeah.
We're both excited to get on here.
If we all play our cards right, we'll be back on this thing. So.
Well, and brilliant minds think alike. Mark, I had the same one, so I picked up the same 122.7 proof straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel,
awesome.
And I've never been disappointed by what you guys do, and this one is just right there with everything. It's excellent. Really enjoying it.
That means a lot. It really does. Hey.
All right, I got it, guys. Cheers, guys.
Yep. So my question is probably, it's not the most technical question. It's just something I'm curious about. Where did you get the name, Doc Swinson's? Where did that come about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We get it all the time. So our first of all, our company started off doing something vividly different than this. It was still in the spirits sphere, but it wasn't our own brand and it wasn't whiskey. And as we had more time available, we started bringing in these different barrels. And I started working on blends and finishing casks for about 3 years before we even launched the brand. Which then, of course, when it came down to launching a brand, we needed to figure out a name. And Doc Swinson was actually kind of handed to us a little bit one, because we believe it represents who we are. It's a little bit of that mad scientist kind of ethos behind it. The other thing is, those of you who are from Seattle or from the Seattle area, you might recognize the name a little bit. He's actually one of the founders of Seattle. Is David Swinson Maynard.
Oh wow!
So that's where the name came from. His nickname was Doc Swinson because he was a doctor of lots of different trades, that's for sure. He's also one of the people that helped Seattle Chief Sealth become recognized, and that's where the name Seattle came from. Well, it was a little bit ruined in the process to get Seattle, but you know what I mean. He was involved in that, which was kind of cool, and he was definitely a black sheep, so to speak. He was a little bit out there, and we just thought it kind of embodied who we were as a group. And it was something that we thought was kind of a fun Easter egg. Now, it's not a big part of our marketing, of course. We don't talk about this person past history because that's not what this brand's actually about. This brand's about pushing the envelope, diving into different ways that we could basically blend American whiskeys with old world techniques in order to make these really great flavor profiles that you normally would never find in American whiskey.
Wow. Great. Actually, that's really interesting to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Somebody saw that. All right. Great.
I've only had in the 6 years that we've had this trademark, the name trademark, I've only had a handful of people actually be like, "Oh, like Maynard?" I was like, "Yep." But once again, that's not a big part of our brand. It's just a name that we thought worked really well with the label style, which is that Prohibition era, Roaring 20s kind of chaos going on.
Well, it's very cool. I went to elementary school in Seattle, so I probably should have made that connection. But probably a little bit too much of this over the years, maybe. I don't know. But,
hey, as long as you remember the name on the bottle and say Doc Swinson instead of Dog Swinson, I got you. You have no idea how many people say Dog Swinson. So we've even gone so far as to develop we haven't actually made it yet, but a chew toy for dogs called Doc Swinson. So,
That'd be awesome.
One day there'll be an offering.
Yeah. Well, I will get one for my 150-pound Mastiff.
Yes.
So, yeah.
We'll make them in multiple sizes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are you making a drink, Will?
I can come back and do it.
Okay.
Mark.
That's totally fine.
So I'll circle back or I'll drop off of here. So,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. I've got you on the wheel, buddy.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Goodness. All right. So, Scribe Spirits, when are you going to come out to LA? Okay. So, if one of the people that jumps on doesn't ask about distribution, then we will get back to that. I promise. Because that's always a question that comes up. Cheers, peeps. Bobby Badax Bourbon is in the house. What's up, buddy? If you want to jump on and ask a question, get in the raffle, Bobby. You're more than welcome. I need one of those dog toys. You see, told you we'd get off talking about dogs and stuff.
Oh, see, and I even did it. You're not wrong. That's all right.
Get down that rabbit hole.
We even found out like one of our key markets from our like research on like our social media is literally people with dogs. It's huge. It's a huge following for us, which is hilarious. So hey, this is
big time.
Point.
Hey, Michelle, sorry, don't be sorry you're late. You are right on time. Not distribution. I meant Jesse. Oh, you need him to come down to LA. Gotcha. Tanner down saying what's up. We have docs down here. I saw it. Oh, okay, right on.
Oh, right on.
Marvin, are you ready, buddy? You were next. Are you ready? What's up, bud?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Whiskey Wine 101 is in the house. What's cracking?
Got you, Marvin.
Hi, Jesse. How's it going? So
It's
I understand you have a bourbon brand.
Something like that.
Okay, and you guys make your own stuff and blend your own stuff.
So we contract distill at MGP. It ages for a minimum of 5 years. Then we bring all the barrels still full to our location in Ferndale, Washington, north of Seattle, where every single barrel is assorted for the different type of products that I will make, and I blend them in-house and bottle them all in-house. And I source all my own finishing casks.
Do you have volunteer bottle days like some of the other local distilleries?
Unfortunately, we don't, because our bottling line is automated.
Oh, well, that makes it easier.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
so we don't with nothing. It's we have a few people that run it, but it's we've got like a laser that needs to be like run, and then to turn it on and turn it off, basically, and to pack some boxes. So it's not quite as classic as you find out like a craft distiller or anything like that. It's pretty automated.
Okay, so this isn't you guys then.
No,
Okay.
but we do.
But this is you guys.
That is me. Yeah,
This is you guys.
Fun one.
This is you guys. Oh wait! I think this is you guys too.
Never heard of them.
I think you guys have a few things.
Oh man, Marvin, you're making my night.
Maybe a couple.
No
but
way. Here. Oh,
You played that off so good in the beginning. I was trying so hard not to laugh, bro.
that was good. Oh my gosh.
He totally got you, Jesse.
I was like, yep, go ball. Yeah.
Right? You guys do this. Yeah, no. But you
I've
guys
never
do.
been played this hard ever. I've been asked some really tough questions, but this is great.
Okay. Now I am mostly a bourbon guy, but I'm getting into rum.
Yeah.
And so I had been looking for your rums for a long time because it was available in some of the local stores and it's available in some of the other stores. But and it's very good because I know it's a mixture of all of your rums that you guys use for your own aging purposes.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Are you guys going to do more of this?
Yes. So the first release I ever did was only because of these kind of podcasts and stuff. Actually, to be honest with you, I kept getting asked where does my rum go? Because I use it for our rye whiskey Solera system, right? So I make the barrels with it, and then the rum gets put back into cognac casks to continue to rest, along with a myriad of other casks as individual rums from different regions. And I said, fine, I'll release 1,000 bottles. So I released 1,000 bottles last year. And then this year I only released, I think it was 370 bottles.
Okay, I at least got several of them.
Oh my gosh. Hey, it was kind of a steal of a deal. I think they're like $35 a bottle or something. It's a Navy strength too. It's 108 proof, 108.6, I think, 108.8, something like that.
It's delicious. I'm not a quick drinker, so I kind of slow sip on these, but I've definitely enjoyed these. Are you going to look for other barrels from other island,
Yes.
Trinidad,
Absolutely.
Barbados, Colombian,
Jamaican.
Thailand, Jamaica. No, there's Jamaica in here.
Yeah, so that
is
blend has Venezuela, Jamaica, Trinidad, and the USVI in it. And I bring all the rums here and I age them in different casks myself. Some of the rums have been previously aged for 5 years in their origin where they came from at the distillery, and some have been just white rums that I've imported. And I used to do this for other clients back in the day, and that's why I ended up with a lot of these different rums and connections with rum distilleries. I used to blend rums.
Okay.
And to answer your question, yes, I'm working on some other origins as well, but they probably won't come out for another year or two at the earliest.
Okay.
But I will produce another round of this, and it'll be a little different than the version that you have.
Okay.
Because I want to expand on the Jamaican side. I want to add a little bit more Jamaican high ester rum to it to bring out a little bit more of the fruity characteristics. I'm still experimenting. So
can I beg you to get Barbados rum?
You can beg me to get Barbados rum, and I have a great source for it. The question is if I can get the quantity that I want, which is not a ton.
Okay.
Well, why Barbados?
I like Barbados rum. So you've got your not XO. Come on, what is it? Not Martell. You've got Foursquare. You've got
Mount Gay.
Mount Gay, and then there's that other. There's the third one. I forget what they. But it just has, for me, it hits differently than some of the other South American rums. It's got a different funk than the Jamaican rums. And I feel a lot of people use, a lot of Jamaican and other South American, Colombian rum barrels and things like that. So I think that, just for my own personal, bias, I tend to like that style of rum.
That was the first rum I fell in love with was Barbadian rum, so I get you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your stuff. I've got I've got another Doc Swinson.
That's an incredible show you got there. Yes,
okay.
That's actually what I'm drinking right now is the triple cask. So actually, that one that you had looks like the original sherry. So that was pre.
This is an older one that I'm afraid to open.
Oh,
I will open it one day. But
wait, come back, Marvin. Hold it still for like 1 second.
That's old. Yeah, that's pre triple cask. So triple cask was an evolution. It started with only Oloroso as a finishing cask, then it moved into Pedro Jimenez, and then I've added in cognac. And that was Tennessee, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen that bottle in a couple of years.
Okay. I'm gonna open this Tawny Port with you if you're up for it. I know you're gonna kick me off, Mark.
I will. Yeah, I've got a few people waiting in the back.
The Tawny Port is.
I can't open it. I've had it already.
Just twist the wax. So, like, put your thumb and finger near the top and just twist it and it should pop open. There you go.
All right, cork pop. Cheers.
We have like easy cracking wax, and it's like we're the only people in the whole universe that use it. I swear. But you don't need a knife and you don't need a lighter. You just twist it.
Right.
The other one that I know I've tried recently was is this the Fred Minnick one? Was this the one that was the?
Yeah, the Tawny Port was the Fred Minnick. It was number 14 last year in his lineup, and it was like one of two bottles under $500 or something insane.
Other than rum and other than bourbon, ports, Tawny Port and Pedro Jimenez are my fave. But you answered my questions. I know, Mark, you got other people to go. Jesse, I appreciate you. Thanks for being on tonight.
Thank you, Marvin. That was a good joke. You got me turned on that one. I turned red. So.
Hey, Marvin,
it could be yours.
It could be. I mean, I've worked on a lot of projects, especially through my 20s, on flavored vodkas, flavored rums, flavored whiskeys, sodas, all sorts of stuff. So.
I'm sorry. One more question. No. I'm going to be like, what? Your origins was in the beverage industry. I remember reading something about that. What got you, and you may have mentioned this earlier, but how did you actually wind up starting your own blending? Did you have to have venture capital? You did it on your own? It was like, fuck it. I'm going to just buy some bourbon and like, let's just throw it in there, throw it out there.
No, I'm not fortunate enough to come from a family that has copious amounts of cash to get into the bourbon industry because trust me, it takes a lot of money to do it. You can do it, I guess, in a lot of different ways without funds, but it does take a lot. I started in the distilling industry when I was 21. While I was still going to university. In fact, I got the opportunity to run a craft distillery near my school that processed apples into brandy and gin, and I did exceptionally well with it. I'm self-taught. I got to work with Vendome stills right out the gate. Same with Arnold Holstein stills right out the gate when I just turned 21. And it was a wild west of distillation. You could do whatever you want and people would try it. That was almost 12 years ago. Okay. And, when people would even taste, White Dog and love it, even though they didn't know what they were trying. It's a whole different ballgame now. And I did that for a number of years, and I wanted to expand my knowledge, and I almost left the industry entirely to go in towards something different, just because I didn't see necessarily a huge future for me in craft distillation, and just so happened to be at the exact same time when somebody else swooped in and said, "Hey, would you be interested in starting a company that develops products for other people?" And that was enticing because it allowed me to do some of the things I wanted to do, which was learn from some of the best people in the industry on somebody else's dime, not have to go back to school, which is kind of nice. Sure. And two, be able to work in things other than just what I was distilling myself. So I got to work with rums. I got to work with brandies, vodkas, cognacs, scotch, Japanese whiskeys, you name it. So I got to do a lot of these things with some of the best blenders in the world, arguably, and glean information from them and slowly work my way into developing this brand. And, you know, I have to say hats off to my CFO, Chris. He's the one that chose to build this company with his original boss's funding, of course. So they're retired and they got out of the fish industry, actually. And they asked him what they wanted to do or what he wanted to do because he's about half their age. And he said, I wanted to get into spirits. And he's the one that allowed me to buy those first barrels. We bought 10 barrels, 10-year-old bourbon from the old Seagram's plant, which is now MGP.
Okay.
This was back in 2014. And we slowly started blending these barrels and playing with them. And we kept buying. As we sold those, we would buy a few more. We'd buy a few more. We built it over the course of a couple of years. And that's when we came up with Doc Swinson's and focused our efforts towards blending really excellent, yet still what we think affordable for what they are, whiskeys, and really focusing towards finishing whiskey, because that's where we think there's a really big opportunity for us to make a mark in the industry is really in finishing.
Well, I look forward to your next expressions. If you do wind up getting into some of those Barbados rums and or finishes, I definitely will swoop up some of those bottles. And
Marvin, don't go anywhere, because if we don't bring you back on while we're live, join us in the backstage to continue the conversation, buddy. Because I know
I'm gonna fall asleep.
No, you're not.
I'm gonna fall asleep
you are
on your damn show again.
You're here every week. You'll be fine. Just sit
half
back
asleep
and listen to the next guy. All right.
Half asleep. Jesse, thank you.
Hey, Mark.
If you ever have visitation rights, Mark and I would love to visit. That sounds wrong.
I love
it. Yeah, he's on house arrest, solitary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I would definitely love to come and see the ops, and
we got to find a place to
person.
stay up there, because that's a lot of driving in one day.
And there's hotels. There's
lots
Airbnbs.
of cool spots. There's great Airbnbs up here. There's lots of good options. You can sleep in the barrel warehouse if you really want.
Mark, if you're cold, we'll spoon, buddy.
All right.
Yeah. We don't too many.
All
right. Bye. Thanks.
Oh man, good guy. All right, Rob, you ready, buddy? What's up?
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Whiskey Edition's in the house.
Hey there, Jesse.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Oh, it's hard to follow Marvin. I mean, spooning with Mark and all that are some of the highlights of my, wish list and all that. But I do also have the Tawny Port.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
and
man.
I've got the Blender's Cut. And
that's what I'm going to next.
As was mentioned before about the Fred Minnick list. I've been trying to get through this list, and you've got 3 of them on there. There's no way I was going to find this number 89 Exploratory Lamente deal on there, but I found these 2 and I went through them, and so I've been going through the list, and Marvin has an old bottle. This is probably the oldest.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
That's
because I've made all these kind of products before, over the years. I don't do much of it anymore. We just focus primarily on Doc.
Was that the pilot? That was the pilot episode, right?
That's right.
There he is.
Just a couple quick questions. Has the Minnick, getting on a list like Fred's is probably a big deal because it's nationwide, and has that increased your exposure? I can't imagine it hasn't.
No, absolutely has. Fred Minnick's been a great help for us because even he himself has we don't sponsor him, we don't pay for it or anything like that, and for him to choose us over the in certain situations over so many other people as well is truly an honor. If anybody's tried as many whiskeys as he has, let's bring him in the room. There's a lot of knowledge there. In fact, I'm hoping to actually go talk with him next week in Bourbon and Beyond in Kentucky, because I'll be there. We have a big booth at the festival, which will be pretty fun. But yeah, to further on your question, absolutely. For example, when we first started chatting with him and sent him some blends, even after the Ascot Awards, which we did well in and everything in 2022, he still came out and said, "I don't understand why Blender's Cut didn't win the whole thing."
It is very good.
He made a whole, not an entire episode, but he put it in one of his episodes about how Blender's Cut is just as like, he just absolutely loved it. I don't know if he still feels the same way. I'm sure he's had a lot more bourbon since then. But that was a true honor, you know, and to be listed 3 times in this top 100 is pretty impressive in itself, at the same round, which is cool. So yes, it brings people such as yourselves who believe in Fred Minnick, to look for the things that he talks about and the things he values, because he's wicked smart. He's got great books. He understands what's going on in the industry, and yeah, you know, it's amazing to be able to work with him, or really him work with us, I should say. So
Cool.
it does.
Well, I pay attention to him only second to Mark and his, you know, his palate. So
I appreciate it. So I've got
where's your 100 in a year? We got to get that list going.
So Rob, based off that, I'm gonna fresh crack this Blender's Cut because I haven't tried it yet, and I was gonna try it fresh pop.
I think I could
You
join
guys here.
I got a Blender's Cut right here.
oh, there you go.
Now, if you guys don't know, the Blender's Cut is at least 5 years old. It is 115 proof. And what makes this so special, Jesse?
It's my namesake bourbon.
Oh, there you go.
I'm the blender. It was hard to come up with that name, actually. And somebody's like, "Well, dude, you're the blender, man. Just call it Blender's Cut." So it worked out great. We're a very like close knit team here. I mean, all of our offices are right next to each other. We used to all share one giant desk when we first started the company, which was kind of funny. So it was that small and roots. But I think what makes this particularly amazing is the technique that I use to actually blend it. So we have, for example, we've got, you know, a few thousand barrels sitting in the Midwest at MGPs warehouses, but we keep about 500 or so here at any given time.
Big barrels.
Yeah, full size. Well, yeah, all the way up to
53.
600 liters. In fact, so we get big boys up in here, punch-ons, and I have some barrels that are called fooders, which are the size of small cars as well. So and we could talk about that later. But yeah, these are full-size 53-gallon ASB barrels, American Standard barrels. We don't do anything smaller than that. No fast aging gimmicks. We don't do any of that. And I also don't do any staves or chips in any of my aging either, which I think also sets us apart in a lot of ways. Because you get the full characteristics that you get from a barrel. The only way to do that is have barrel and an oxygen exchange, right? The Blender's Cut's really fascinating because what I'll do is I have the 2 bourbon mash bills I work with from MGP, the 21% and the 36%. We go through and we taste every single one of these barrels, right? And we gauge them as well. So we know how much is in them by weight, and we also know what proof they are, right?
Okay.
And then what I'll do is my goal is to take a matrix of barrels at different proof points, right? And end up blending those barrels together at a rough ratio. It's pretty close. It's usually with 1 or 2% difference from each batch of the 2 mash bills to 115 proof.
Okay.
Nobody does that. That's insane. Is what it is. It's just
Right. No, yeah, you're working the percentages of the blend to achieve a proof point that you want to sip it at.
Yes, basically, more or less. Well, and the percentages, like I said, don't usually change a whole lot. There happens to be this magic ratio between the 21 and 36 that worked out really well for us. Really well for us. So that doesn't really change, but we find the mash bills, the proofs of each one of the barrels, and we blend the barrels based upon the proof points as well as flavor profile, of course. So if they're really off, we don't put them in the batch, for example.
Right.
Ultimately, it's usually around 35 to 40 barrels a batch. And it gets us to approximately 115 proof, sometimes 115.2, and we add only enough water to drop it to 115. That's it. So the point is it's not diluted, whereas most people would just dump a bunch of barrels and they would dilute it down to the bottle strength.
Right.
So if there's any dilution here, it's only a 0.1, 0.2 proof maximum.
Right. And to bring it to that round number.
Yeah, so that allows you to maintain the boldness, and it doesn't let the whiskey go into what we call chaos. But what it really is doing is it gets hot or disjointed when you add water to it. So and that takes quite a long time for it to mellow out, if at all. So it eliminates that problem. Making something that's just really bold, flavorful, yet still doesn't punch like 115 proof would.
Very
Okay.
scientific.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into my first pour. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh man, there's like an evolution of flavors. It builds up. It ramps up strong the further it goes back in the palate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Those of you out there, if you guys see the blenders cut sitting on the shelf, I'd say go ahead and pick that up. I like that.
Well, and that's what happened when I was collecting these other of Fred's hundreds. I'd see the Doc Swinsons on the shelf, and I'm like, crap, there's the one I need. Oh, there's the other one, and it was kind of random. You look for it, and it's kind of random to find them and hard to find, I think, at times.
It is. It's a big challenge for any whiskey company that has multiple SKUs is to get shelf space that actually makes sense, because we don't have control, right, on the retail line. So they're putting it where they think it might fit. And that could be really hard. It's sometimes really difficult to find products, our own.
Sure. Just one last question. I'll let
go ahead, Rob.
You look like you're in a very sterile environment in your background there. Is there like a doctor's chair off to the side, stirrups the whole? Anyway, I don't know about Marvin's area, so we'll wait for the tour for that.
But yeah, absolutely. No, believe me, you'll be amazed. This is like the cleanest part of my office. That's why my computer's looking at it. So, my old backdrop used to be a bunch of barrels that we had painted, and I just didn't want to move them into this office when I got this one. And I'm like, y'all get the bottles. That's
it's very official. It's good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's good.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Thanks for finding those bottles. I'm glad you have. That's super cool. And the Tawny Port.
Hey, Rob, I love it when you
vodka.
come on. Thanks for being here, man. And I will send you a text when Marvin and I plan that trip up there, man.
Yeah, it sounds good. I probably only have half as far to go.
Yeah. So you're on the wheel, so stay tuned. See what you win.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. All right, you got any water, Jesse?
You know what? I have some tea. Nope.
Gotta remember to hydrate. All right, Scribe of Spirits.
Jesse,
what's happening,
buddy?
Hey, oh my God, Seth, what's up?
Also got some Tawny Port here at Jesse's recommendation. I was texting you the other week about this. And then I have the Emberana that we tried in Vegas. I wanted to pop on and say hey. And also ask about any interesting cask types coming up. Tokai, Misnara, Cab Sauv, XP to Scotch, beer barrels.
I mean, some of them are coming up. So so we're actually bottling our next round of exploratory casks currently, like as in this week. They are repeats from ones I've done in the past, with a little bit different focus on them. So it's my Muscatel de Setubal finish. That'll be the largest. I did 15 barrels of it this time. And then I have another Pinot de Charente release, which I'm super stoked about. That one's been really fun and well received in the market. And then the third one right now is my L'Esprit, which is the cognac finish. And that one's been aging. That one's been finishing for some of the barrels have been up to 2.5 years in the cask. And so they're a little more expressive, which is really fun. And then there's another one that's going to come out. It hasn't come out yet. And it's just because it was last minute. I decided I think I really enjoy where it's moving towards. And I worked on a blend that I just kind of fell in love with. And it just got approved by the TTB a couple days ago. And it is
we'll see it on Jacob's Instagram in a few days then.
Well, sorry?
Then we'll see it on Coming Whiskey in a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's funny, sometimes that's where I find it before I even know.
He's want to have a scraper or something. I don't know how he does it.
It's insane because I kid you not, I'll see stuff on Instagram. I'm like, what? Hey, my label got approved. And you know what? I get a notification from the TTB when it's approved. And usually it shows up a day after I see him on Instagram. So this time it didn't, which is kind of funny, especially because it has a really controversial name. It's called Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness.
Okay, so it's a play on. So the last peated Scotch quarter cask I did was Smoke on Water, and that was a rye or 2 rye whiskeys that were finished in the peated Scotch quarter casks for about 7 months, if I recollect correctly. This time I did something a little different. I did rum, rye, and peated Scotch quarter casks. So all three.
What?
So the rum cask and peated Scotch quarter cask, but it's a rye whiskey.
Oh,
Right. No, I got
I didn't
that.
blend them together.
I've just never heard of any peat with rum together.
Oh, peat and rum works really well.
oh yeah,
Really?
that sweet and that smoke.
It's just gorgeous.
Magic.
Just think like the best barbecue, you know, because you get the sugary background in it. You get this gorgeous smoke, and it's also kind of subtle and thick. So it's like a wet smoke, which is really nice. And it's coming out extremely tobacco forward, which is fun. So I thought I was racking my head with names for like 2 months on this one. And I have this whole board behind me actually with names on it that I pull from time to time. And that was the first name came to me was Reefer Madness. I was a big Sublime fan growing up.
Right.
So, and you know, it's just, we're also in Washington, I guess. But anyways, it was just kind of funny. And you know what? I didn't want to go with it because I just didn't think that people would maybe understand it or whatnot. And then I don't know, I was like talking to my CFO and he's just like, dude, just go with it. See if they'll even accept it with the TTP. They had no problem.
All right, one last question, if I may, Mark.
No, go ahead, man.
This one's a little bit nerdy, but you were talking about water and dilution earlier.
Right.
Thoughts on slow water reduction, that whole process? Like Still Austin uses it and very big proponent of it. I know it's a Nancy Fraley thing.
So, you know, it's actually a cognac thing. It's a brandy thing. It's been around for
I
hundreds
didn't know
of years.
that. I only know it from Nancy's work.
Yeah, well, Nancy was trained by a cognac distiller.
Mm.
I know Nancy. Nancy's one.
I didn't know that. No, I'm like, that makes sense now.
I met her when I was 21. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. I took one of my first blending classes with her as well. And like I said, I used to distill brandy. And most of my methods for the whiskeys are actually from brandy. Old methods used in France primarily, and as well as other places too. It just depends on what product we're talking about. But yeah, it's a common method found in cognac maturation is slow proofing. So I've been doing slow proofing since I was 21. And it's part of the Doc Swinson's profiles as well. We do slow proofing here too. And now everybody's got different ways they do slow proofing, right? Sometimes, like for example, in cognac, you might have an extremely old cognac that could be slow proofed over the course of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years even, which is insane. And they're absolutely wild. But yeah, no, I mean, it's great. It's great to see that finally being employed. In fact, I saw that with Still Austin the other day. I was like, that's awesome that somebody's actually talking about it. Because there's only a handful of us I've ever come across that actually utilize slow proofing methods in the American whiskey industry. And it shows, like it makes a difference on the product. You get what happens if you can, depending on what proofs you're trying to achieve. If you drop something from a high proof to a low proof really quickly, you can end up with saponification, which you get this soapy characteristic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've tasted that.
Yeah, and that's a consequence of adding water too quickly to the high proof spirit. And once you get below a certain proof point, typically, and you're like, I want to say it's like sub 95, 94, 90, somewhere in there, you can start getting saponification, and you can't reverse it. You can't go backwards.
You can't fix it once it's there.
Once it's soaped, it's soaped.
Not that I mean, once again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a classically trained chemist at all. So,
right.
But to my understanding,
Rest in peace, Dave Pickerel.
Yes. Yeah. Also another legend in the industry for sure.
Well, I'm going to jump off. I would normally join you in a dram, but doctor's orders, no drinking for the month.
Uh-oh.
Well, we'll get you next month. One of these days, I'm coming down south anyway. So
come, make Steve send you to Whiskey and Barrel Night.
Absolutely. I'll pester Steve. He's actually in Kentucky right now. So
okay. Well, hey, make sure if you check the end of the video when we do the raffle for the giveaway, depending on what you win, send me an email or send him an email if he doesn't already have your contact.
He does. Even though he called me Seth when I first came on.
Right, I caught that.
Sam, I'm sorry.
No, I caught that.
I know. I literally thought it too. And I was like, did I get it right? Did I get it right?
You're good. Hey, Sam, thanks for jumping on, and I hope you win something good.
Thanks, Sam.
Oh goodness. Hey, dude, this blender's cut is good. It So the way I classify my tasting notes is there's syrups like chocolate, caramel, vanilla, molasses, stuff like that, right? So there's the syrups. Then you got fruits, no matter if it's berries or peaches or stone fruits, whatever. Then you got different kinds of spices. There's baking spices, white pepper, all that kind of stuff. And then there's your nuts. There's pecans, walnuts, peanuts, all that stuff. Totally blanked on the last one. But so it goes syrups, fruits, and then spices. But the flow is so smooth, it doesn't like sharply build up and bank to one or the other. I like it how it just kind of escalates and then just kind of fulfills and waters your mouth. Dude, this blender's cut's good.
Thank you. No, I mean, that was the goal, that was coming up with something that was actually like showcased balance and gradual building. So it's layering. We're really good at layering here. That's kind of our big thing, which sometimes is confusing to people because they're not used to it. I think a lot of people, when they drink,
I over described layering. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job. You did an awesome job, better than I could have described layering, to be honest. I think that's really common though when people drink whiskeys or other spirits too. Like they often, I think, are looking for something that like really pokes out to them, which is true. Like I do that a lot. I'll be like, oh, that's totally apricot. Like I get it. But then you kind of forget the rest of it. And sometimes when people are blending, they blend towards like, oh, here's this profile that people are going to understand really easily without necessarily needing to dig behind, or pull back the curtain, so to speak, to understand what's going on, which is funny. So, I mean, these are just, I could go on for that forever, but we tend to lean towards more like more complex layering in our blending techniques so that you end up with this whole like experience worth of things and experiences. Everything's a bit of a journey, which is a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. So James Morgan came in from across the pond. Thanks for being here, James. Ben came down from Canada to say what's up. What's up, Ben? It's good to see you. It's always good to see you guys. Do you have some beer experience with the
fooders? Beer experience with the fooders. All my fooders were used in cognac originally. I'm not sure if that's quite the answer you're looking for. But yeah, they're all used in cognac originally. My only beer experience was friends that are brewers, and when I was a child making beer, I can tell you that. With my family. That's where it all started. Beverage has been in my blood for a long time. I had my own root beer line when I was in like 3rd grade.
All right, so Marvin said his son's name is Parker, so he must have been related.
That's really funny.
Dude, I love Marvin. Cognac finish, sign me up. Lee, you haven't asked about distribution yet, man. What's up? What's up, Richie Z, the legend? All right, so I got TroyMan in the back. You ready for TroyMan? What's up, Troy?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good, Troy. Yourself?
So good.
Well, I'm staying at the less than Super 8 down here in Portland, so, it could be better.
So it's like a 7.3?
No, that's a 737 that just flew over my head, literally. Yeah.
Well, at least you'll have that white noise for while you sleep.
Oh, I'm going to crank up the AC in here and, just use that. Hopefully I won't hear the planes too much longer. But anyways, hi, Jesse. I'm Troy. I actually went to college up at Western, up in Bellingham, so I'm very familiar with the whole Whatcom County. But I did not know you guys were up there in Ferndale until about 3 months ago. And I'm wondering, is that something you guys care to advertise, that you're from Washington, you're from Whatcom County, you do cool things up there? Is that something that's going to be part of your marketing plan to get the word out about Washington? Or is it just more about the whiskey?
Yeah, so we focus more towards the whiskey because we are distributed in 27 states. So saying Washington doesn't really particularly work well in the other 26. To be honest with you.
Yeah, fair.
But as far as it's kind of funny. So when we first started the brand, we actually put it in, we sold some of it in Washington, sort of, but we actually put it in Texas and Florida and California first, because we wanted to know if people really liked it or not. Because, if it's your neighbors, they usually aren't going to say, no, it's bad until they don't have enough bottles to support you. You know what I mean? I think we took the logical steps in saying we should go to bigger whiskey markets and put it there and see what happens.
Yeah.
We got really great feedback, which was good. We've also just changed a little bit of what direction we're moving towards, or at those first year or so. But now we're actually really trying to focus on Washington State as well to do like a homecoming. We've been working on that for like 2 years with distribution, but that was just utilizing a distributor to put it places. Now we want to come in and say, hey, we're hosting events, we're showing up to events. And we've been doing a lot of the last probably like 6 months or so, where we're doing events at golf courses. We just did a huge tasting at Pike Place Market for their harvest dinner.
Nice.
That was a great turnout. It was super fun. It's kind of nice being the only bourbon manufacturer because like everybody kind of wants to drink it.
Yeah.
It's always food, then wine, and then everybody just wants spirits. It's really funny how those work out. But yes, to answer your question, we want to talk a little bit more about Washington. We've been supported really well by Sip Northwest, which is based there on South Lake Union. We dropped the bottles off personally, and anyways, yes, there's a lot of motions towards doing more in Washington State as of lately, which we're really excited about. We've done a couple bar takeovers as well. I'm excited to do more in Seattle, particularly.
Very cool. And then James Morgan wanted me to ask about distribution across the pond over in the UK.
Export's a little more difficult. Like I said, we're a little team here, but technically we do ship to 4 other countries, and I'm not going to be able to remember every single one off the top of my head because we don't.
That's okay.
To be honest with you, it's like a layer on a pallet. It's so small. I believe it's like the Netherlands. I think somebody in Spain. I know we ship to Tokyo, specifically Tokyo only.
Oh, really?
You can find us in Tokyo. I don't know where. I'm sure of the millions of storefronts, there's like 10 bottles somewhere laying around. But we do. It's kind of funny. I have 2 very close friends that actually live in England and 1 very close friend that lives in Scotland, and they get upset with me all the time that we aren't able to ship to them. So really? I don't know that answer yet.
Okay, no worries.
Hopefully one day soon.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks, Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Appreciate it.
All right.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Troy. I know that you're flying out in the morning, so I appreciate you staying up late to hang out with us.
Yeah, no problem. All right. See you guys later.
I'll talk to you soon. So that was another one of the questions I had is where is the furthest out you've seen one of your bottles? And, going westward, Japan is not that far. Like, theoretically.
No.
Like, so where's the, farthest out you've seen a Doc Swinson's?
Not in
where you're like, holy crap, we're there?
It would be Europe, certainly. So I know we've had some bottles in Portugal pop up, the Netherlands. In fact, before we barely even had the brand out, we had some of our bottles going for sale in the secondary market, and I'm pretty sure it was either Netherlands or Belgium for like $1,700 a bottle, which was kind of funny. This was like 2020 for the record, so it was all chaos.
Really?
But yeah, somebody got a hold of a bunch of our 15-year bourbons and like flipped them on a market. We said, we're like, oh, they're actually in Belgium or the Netherlands. I can't remember which one. That's probably the furthest, which is still pretty far. I'm sure we made it around different parts of the world. I just don't know about it.
That is pretty far. John Cloud's here. What's up, buddy? Thanks for jumping in. Are you just gonna lurk and listen while I play Vidya games? Vidya. Jesse, when you aren't drinking your own, what's your bourbon go-to? That was one of my other questions on backup, Marvin.
Ooh.
So yeah, Jesse, I every time we do one of these shows, I have a list of things that I'm interested to know if one of the guests don't ask it. And that is one of them, along with like the origin story, like how did you get into whiskey? And if you're not drinking your own product, what are you drinking?
I like to try new things actually a lot. So as far as, I guess, okay, I could give you the short answer. I think one of my favorite things recently is still Stag.
Oh, really?
It's so good. Yeah, it just Stag. The newest release that they put out, or not newest, I think it's the first of when they switched over to just Stag. I blew my mind. And the funny thing is the grocery store down the street from me, once in a while that one right there.
Was it the 18 was the first one?
I can't remember. I'm the worst at
That, this one is the 22 Alpha.
Maybe I'm trying to think of what I have. The funny thing, I was literally just drinking it last night. I have some left. The grocery store down the street from me sells it for like SRP.
Oh, goodness gracious.
So if any of y'all wander up to Bellingham area, go check out a Hagen. Because they have
Hagen.
They're not like, they don't even know what they have, which is great. So anyways,
what's up, Z-Man? Good to see you. And big league Bergen's in the house. What's up, man? So you like Stag, right? But when you go to like a hotel, an airport, a restaurant, they're not necessarily going to have Stag.
No, I mean, honestly,
so what are you ordering?
I'm a big old fashioned fan. I do love me a good old fashioned. And you know what's funny? I'm not the best at making them, so I'd rather order them.
Nice.
As far as neat, it depends what they have. I mean, a lot of places have really cool stuff. I'm traditionally quite a big fan of wild turkey. You can find that everywhere.
Oh yes, that is a shelf staple. When like I do a lot of blind fights, and it's like in the low to mid $20 bottle when it kicks the butt out of like.
Yep. It
beats the brakes out of bottles twice at the price. I mean, you can't beat it.
It absolutely does. I 100% agree. I love what they do. If I'm feeling like I want to treat myself a little bit more, some good old Four Roses, just because I'm a sucker for being a blender, and that's what they do. Their blenders, arguably just as much as they are distillers. That's their whole game. So I think that's just impressive in its own. But no, it's usually wild turkey.
All right, it says Doc Swinson is huge in Illinois. Huge. I need to buy more. I got one bottle.
I gotta get out to Illinois soon.
All right, Tully, you ready?
Our head of sales is from Illinois, so.
Yep. All right, this is the Samoan Barkeep, Tully. What's up, buddy?
Can you guys hear me?
Clear, crystal.
Hey, nice to meet you, Jesse.
Pleasure to meet you too.
Hey, I'm new to bourbon, and so one of the things that I've found, especially with Doc Swinson's, is I can't figure out which one I should start with. So I have not actually tried any of your products yet, just because there's so many choices. So what's for someone who's just getting into it? What would you recommend we start off with?
All right, so what I would say is go right. Okay, well, if you're used to a higher strength, like a barrel strength product, like let's just say you already know that, right? Which it looks like you do. I would say Blender's Cut. It's the easiest way to get into it. Second to that would be Triple Cask, which is the cognac, sherry, and sherry finishes. And that's because that one's really inviting. It's got great notes that's more similar to or captive by like somebody who likes wine as well, or Scotch whiskey. So if you like wine and Scotch whiskey, Triple Cask. If you're already familiar with the barrel strength, go right for Blender's Cut.
Blender's Cut, got it.
Blender's Cut.
And do you have any? One of the finishes I've liked recently that I've just gotten into is tequila finish. Do you have any like añejo finish?
Yes. I did a stint in Mexico for a while working with tequila distilleries, and I also love, who doesn't love a good agave spirit? I did a bourbon called Dos Padres, and that was a bourbon finished in añejo tequila casks. And
you have two fathers?
Yeah. Well, it's the two father spirits. You know what I mean? We got bourbon and tequila. That's like quintessential, like American, like North American products right there. And then
absolutely.
I also have Tres Amigos, so which is just
aquí.
And that's rye that's been finished in rum casks and añejo tequila casks. That one, I mean, if you could find them. Those are the ones that are like sleepers. Like I released them over a year ago, and I did about 4 barrels of each, and that's it so far. I'm working on another round of Tres Amigos because I still think that was my favorite. I'm a big rye fan though, but I had like people that we send samples and stuff to. Like these are like various influencers and stuff like that. Fred Minnick like people, and I had some of them call me up like in the middle of the night being like, what is this? Where did this come from? This is probably one of my favorite things I've tried in the last 6 months or whatever. And that was either Dos Padres or Tres Amigos. You might be able to find some here in Washington still, and probably Total Wine and More would be your best bet, but I don't know.
Sweet, thanks. Appreciate you answering the question. I'll look out for those.
Tully, I just did a fresh crack. That was a great question. Like someone who's new to your brand, what would you recommend them try first? That's a great question, Tully. Very well. It's a smart question. I can give you a sample of the Blender's Cut, the Alter Ego, which is the triple cast that he mentioned, and one of their Total Wine store picks. So you can try those three side by side and see which direction to go from there. But to follow up on one of your answers that you had to him, Jesse, when you were talking about there's a whiskey and rum finish and a whiskey and tequila finish, are we finding those in the rye section? Or in the American whiskey section, or where in the store are we finding those? Because most Total Wines per se have it kind of segregated by section, and we don't see that stuff in the bourbon section.
Yeah, it's really quite difficult. So sometimes our stuff is on an end cap, so it's not even in a section. We've noticed the majority of times though, the ryes are our rye finishes are all in the rye section because they all say straight rye whiskey. Is the first thing they say, and then it says finished in. So more often than not, they're all found in the rye whiskey section.
Okay, so the ones you were just mentioning with the multiple, because at the Total Wine I was at earlier this week, they had rye finished in Scotch barrels. I think it was the Exploratory.
Yeah, that was
rye.
Yeah,
rye finished in Scotch.
Yeah, was that in the rye section?
It was in the rye section.
Usually it's there. So the only other thing that's weird about Washington Total Wine and More in particular is because we're considered local. Sometimes we get shoved just in the generic local section, which I have seen as well, versus putting us in the bourbon and the rye section.
Which is fine with me. No, you're still here.
Okay. I know, sorry, my screen likes to go off. But it is a little confusing. And of course, to each store. It's a whole nother ball game.
Okay. Hey, Tully, thanks for jumping on. I've got you on the wheel.
All right.
And hopefully you win a flight of samples. And if you don't, I'll give you.
Hey, thanks for doing this, Jesse. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Tully. Whiskey-Wanderberg. What's up, Michelle?
Oh.
No, you're muted, I think. You're not muted on my end. You're muted on your end. But speaking of, while Michelle's figuring out her audio, I am going to open up that Alter Ego because that's the last one that I have here that I have not tried from you. Now, the Alter Ego, as he's already mentioned, is the triple cask. And I was going to ask how this compares to a cigar blend because the Joseph Magnus here is an Armagnac, a cognac with a sherry finish. And this one, correct me if I'm wrong, is two different sherries plus a cognac, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So it's kind of similar.
Very, very much so. The bigger differences is some people like ours more, some people like theirs more. Ours is about $40 less. I can tell you that.
Well, I got this one, this Alter Ego triple cask. I got this one for, I want to say 87 out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was 160 something before tax.
So even more, maybe 60. That's incredible. Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing that we do is like one of our big goals as a company was to also offer whiskey at what we think is an approachable price for what it is. And that's just because we know what it costs. We'd like to be able to afford our own whiskey when we go to the grocery store or the liquor store. That's a big thing for us. Like I said, we don't really come from like a pedigree background or extremely, we still have bootstrapped it. We did have help, of course, but we still bootstrapped our company. We're still wholly owned, all those kind of things. So we have full control. And yeah, the other thing about this one, ours is probably less. I think the Magnus one has a lot more of the brandy qualities coming through, and ours is a little bit more toned down from that. So it's actually reminds more people of like a Highland Scotch, for example. So if you're really into Scotch, this is a great lead into our whiskey, to American whiskey, actually. So they still taste quite different. It wasn't to make it taste like Magnus or vice versa or anything like that. It just, those are naturally great flavor profiles together. The Oloroso sherry is going to give you that brightness. It's going to give you those nutty qualities. The Pedro Jimenez is going to give you all that extra like sugar, that sweetness is going to give you those raisins and chocolate.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say purple fruits.
The purple, exactly, the beautiful purple fruits. And that cognac is actually what dissects them and keeps the body going more than anything. That's what I use the cognac for. Versus a huge aromatic element, which is a different way you can use the cognac. That's kind of like more where maybe Magnus went with it. So they're just a little different,
I got you. So JD is here. Man, JD, I'm glad you were able to catch us. I love the Doc products, especially when Cal had some of the first expressions a few years ago. Miss 15-year batch 6.
That batch 6 was the first 15 year I ever put out. So our naming conventions may not follow always what you think they do. Batch 6 was the first 15 year I put out. It just means I made 5 different exploratories before that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Jesse, his Doc Swinson's collection is ridiculous.
Thank you. That's amazing. Some people have more impressive ones than I have.
He has a very impressive Doc Swinson's collection. When he showed me earlier, I was just like, oh my goodness. Samo, thanks for the question. Yep. Triple cast with a cigar. Yeah, most of the time when you get sherry finishes or cognac finishes or Armagnac finishes, here they go good with a cigar. Michelle, I hope you figure out your audio, because I really want you to jump on and join us on screen and ask your question. For now, Steven, you ready, buddy? Yep. Oh, hey, what's up, Steven?
What's going on, Jesse? How you doing, man?
Good, Steve. Yourself?
Good, man. Good. I'm actually so first of all, Mark, you need to promote these better, man, because I had no idea this was even going on, and I saw a fucking alert on YouTube or some shit, and it was like 17 minutes in. I was like, fuck. So I was trying to catch up, and then I just like fast forwarded because I was like, I don't want this shit to end, and I want to be able to ask a question. So
yeah.
You got to post like days in advance. We need to know about this shit. But you're consistent with the times, though. That's good. But no, so Jesse, so I'm a part of a national group called Someone Say Whiskey. I think they came out last year. I was really hoping to come out and be a part of that pick, but I had my son that day, and I live probably like 2 hours from Ferndale. I'm in Puyallup, right? So I'm further south, but I haven't tried a ton of Doc Swinson, but I will say, I have and I think part of that is I just have, and I hate to say this, but I have a shitload of MGP bottles, right? Probably like 30 plus, right? So sometimes that can deter you from buying more. However, I will say that I have this guy, the alter ego rye, and man, I've gotten so many great compliments on this rye, and every time I go back to it, because I'm more of a cask strength guy, but every time I go back to this rye finished in rum cask, I'm like, this is so fucking good, man. And I'm actually going to the ocean this week, and it's getting low, so I'm gonna kill this bottle with my brother and my mom's husband. But it's a great rye, man, and obviously you guys do a great job with what you do. So I definitely need to get out there and try more. I'm actually been tempted for a while to make an order on the Doc Swinson website, because right now you guys are, I think, switching distributors. So
yes, we've been shaking some stuff up, and we're working with a new group for online, because we weren't particularly happy with our other one, because our website's our website, but they're the ones that actually facilitate the transaction, shipping, and everything. And they weren't always following through. We had a lot of problems, and we found a better one. We hope. We believe so, and they also ship to more states, which is good.
That's awesome.
I think it'll be a lot faster.
Well, so I have a couple questions. I'm going to go through these quick. So I think it sounds like from what I'm hearing, I need to get the blenders cut because I have way too many bottles as is. But I need to know like what are the bottles that you would suggest for someone that likes all whiskey but leans more towards bourbon. Would you recommend going with like a blenders cut or an alter ego like the cast strength versions, or would because I also like finishes a lot too, and I've been very intrigued by the Bossa Nova as well.
If you could find a Bossa Nova, pick it up because those are flying off the shelf. And out of the 30 some odd like Ambrana cast finishes that were done that I know of in the country, I mean, 2 points. Someone say Whiskey said ours was the best as a national group, which Alex Batista, right? He was like, this is freaking amazing. It was wonderful having them up here too. And yes, get a group together. We'll do a tour one of these days. That'd be a riot.
Yeah, Mark, let me know. I'm in.
Okay.
But and they're all a little different, of course. We all have different trajectories with it. It's not like a normal bourbon. Don't walk into it saying this is going to taste like bourbon. Just
I've had Ambrana experience. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's a totally different ball game. But to answer your question, one, it's kind of funny. I know I understand the comment that you first said earlier, which is I have a lot of MGP on the shelf. A lot of people working MGP. It's a great base, absolutely. A lot of people don't even realize we're MGP based. We just happen to say it a lot. We use blending techniques. I use blending techniques that kind of move away from those typical characteristics that you find in MGP. So I don't want to lead you astray and say that, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It is different, and there's still similarities, but it is different than you normally find with MGP blends. I mean, if you've probably tried a lot of MGP rye, I assume.
Yeah, and I will say this, although I've tried some and I don't own a ton of your bottles. I advocate for you guys every time because one, you're from Washington, and two, you blend, which is way different than just buying MGP barrels and bottling them, right? Like you're obviously a master blender at what you do, and when I've actually been telling multiple friends of mine, like, hey, they actually take multiple mash bills and blend them, as I believe you do with the bourbon and the rye. So having my knowledge base, I definitely promote that. Like, I let people know, like, hey, try MGP or try Doc Swinson if you're gonna try some MGP product, because what they do is a little bit different.
That's awesome. Thank you for being an advocate for us, because that's exactly the case. There's only 2 releases I've ever done that are straight MGP 1 mash bill that hasn't been finished, for example. And that is the single barrel that Mark has, because that's a single. That's a proper single barrel, and it's a curated cask that I've said this one passes the muster for the profiles that I think are appropriate for Doc Swinson's, right? And then the other one is our Bottle and Bond that just came out, rye. But that one is still a unique set of casks that were picked all after they turned 7 years old, that were blended together to exhibit 4 primary characteristics.
Okay.
Which dive into another time if you want.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. So that's it. Everything else is blended, multiple mash bills, and/or finished and blended on top of that. So it is a little different than what I think most of our competitors are really doing.
And you guys are really known for the finishes. I feel like you guys have such a great reputation for the finishes in the game. And but the question I really wanted to ask was, I'm very intrigued by the Garryana finish. And so I was going to ask, like, what made you want to do that? So it's 2-part question. One part is, what made you want to do the Garryana oak? Because from what I've heard is that it's very hard to work with, and I know that, like, I'm a whiskey guy, right? As it sounds like you are too, with the finishes and everything. So I like Scotch, I like single malt, I like Japanese. So Westland obviously has their Garryana. Bull Run does the Garryana, one of their products, and then Burnside. But aside from them, I think you're the first one that's ever done a bourbon in Garryana. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm very intrigued by that, and I want to know what made you go towards that, and do you have any other interesting finishes up your sleeves? Not that you have to disclose them, but
so I guess so Garryana is always fascinating me because I learned about it from Westland back when I was 21. So once again, almost 12 years ago. I don't really know him particularly personally anymore, but like Matt Hoffman, right, the distiller of Westland, and I got to hang out there for a while. And anyways, I was introduced to Garryana there, and I thought it was such a fascinating oak. And for the fact that it's from here, I wanted to
Right.
bring a wood that was from here into the bourbon world as best as I could and showcase that it is an excellent wood to work with, just as exciting as Mizunara, for example, which I know everybody gets really excited about. And for obvious reasons, it's great. You know, there's so many other woods out there that are incredible. And most people just think, oh, it's all aged in oak. Well, there's a lot of kinds of oak out there. And that's the thing people don't talk about. You know, people always talk about the grains and they talk about the distillation, but what about the maturation? The thing that generally gives you the most flavor of everything else in there is the maturation.
Right.
And that Garryana was kind of an ode to where I'm from, which is where y'all live, right? I mean, like I'm from Whidbey Island originally, and the north end of Oak Harbor is literally called Oak Harbor because of the Garryana oak tree. In fact,
I didn't know
in
that.
the town, there's like, I mean, I don't go about exactly where the name Oak Harbor came from, but I should say I'm assuming it's from the tree because all over Oak Harbor, I'm from Langley, I'm from the south side, but all over Oak Harbor, there's little plaques around all the oak trees in the park by the water that say, you know, like, please be nice to me, I'm a Garryana oak. Like,
oh wow,
it's really cute, and they're like a lot of them are fenced off, so like if they're too little, you like, you know, the animals won't and people won't ruin them and stuff like that.
Right.
Because they're treasured by the locals, which is really cool, and it's the Garryana oak. You know, it's Quercus Garryana, and they grow prolifically throughout the San Juans and the islands, and you know, from northern California to southern BC, all within 100 miles of coast. There's only one other place in the world that they grow to, and it's this little spot in Idaho. That's because they grew there before the Cascade Mountain Range was there.
Dude, you just hit me with some knowledge. That's great.
Isn't that wild?
So, that is wild.
That's a really cool podcast. So.
We're on like whiskey nerd level shit right now, because like you said, the oak, right? And then it's like Fred Minnick talks about how yeast can influence different, you know, different flavors and such, and
different types of yeast.
And that's what I'm interested in. So my last question, then I'll get off here, is I'm curious because you source from MGP, and it sounds like that's what you guys are committed to. That's what's built, you know, obviously built the flavor profile of the brand and such, and you have a relationship. It sounds like you contract distill with them, you said, and such. I'm curious, do you plan to continue down the same path of blending the same bourbon mash bills, the same rye mash bills, or have you thought about doing other interesting things? Because as Marvin brought up the rum, like I wish I could find some of that shit, especially with the price that it was at. And I look forward to seeing more of that, because similar to Marvin, I'm just starting to dabble into rum and such. And so I'm curious if you're going to, like, it sounds like you're continuing the rum thing, but I'm wondering if you're expanding any further into any other types of whiskey, because as a lot of us know, like, you know, MGP has some great light whiskey that, you know, some companies have dabbled in, like Bull Run and such. So I'm just kind of curious if there's anything else on the horizon that you're thinking about playing with, or maybe already are playing with.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as for Doc Swinson's goes, yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge rye fan, so I like working with high rye bourbons because of the profiles that you get out of them. I'm not the biggest wheated bourbon fan, I'll be honest, although sometimes they take the cake for me once in a while in the blind tasting. I'll be like, that's my favorite, and it turns out to be a wheated. I'm like, oh my gosh. But normally I'm not as a big fan of them because they don't have, they exhibit more, I don't know, I guess like more base flavors. And whereas the rye is really truly like rich and enriching, and it works well with finishes. I actually recently put in my request for, oh gosh, the high malted barley bourbon.
Oh, yeah.
As well as a wheated bourbon with MGP. And I really want to, more or less, I prefer to stick with more like classic American whiskeys. So like bourbon and rye. I like that being part of our name, and I think that I like the idea of making more of an impact in those particular products than venturing out with everything I could possibly get my hands on.
Right.
Not saying I won't do them. I actually used to blend a ton of the light whiskey from way back in the day. The same stuff people are working with now, I used to work with like 7 years ago on a different project that went to Japan.
Okay.
So it's a whole nother ball game. And yeah, that is part of the amazing thing of what we do as blenders. I mean, we've got great companies out there, like Bull Run. I mean, Barrel does such a great job with things. Bardstown does really cool stuff. But I think there's so many opportunities out there that I kind of want to keep my focus a little bit more pinpointed towards what are more traditionally recognized names like bourbon and rye.
Right.
Now, venturing outside of American whiskeys, yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be fun one day to work with a Canadian whiskey. I think it'd be fun one day to work with Scotch, Irish whiskey. I'd really like to get more into brandy again one day. And yes, rum, I think, will be my magnum opus to like what as a blender. I would love to work in rum because the sky's the limit, way more than I am now. So yes, it's all open. Like the whole door's wide open. I just want to open it, like I guess, slowly to that process.
Yeah, like a small little crack. No, that's cool though, man. Like, cause the explosion of American single malt and such has been cool, and I think MGP just put out their first one with I mean the Yellowstone single malt is sourced from there. Obviously they own Luxco now and such like that, but that's really cool, man. Well, I appreciate the insight. Thanks for answering the questions. I think you have I'll be real with you, like the high rye MGP, like the 36% is like, that's my those are like the MGPs that I love, like your Smooth Amber, Old Scout, Tumbling Dice, like stuff like that is like, you can get them for the cheap and it's just amazing bourbon. But I'm gonna definitely go buy some more Doc Swinson now, so appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say one of the things we might get to it later too, but we did just release like a more introductory bourbon too for a much lower price point. So for people who might not be on this channel, but people who are like, I don't know, I'm not sure Doc Swinson's yet, like it's another MGP. We do have one that's coming out for like $40 a bottle. And it should be hitting Washington shelves kind of soon too.
What's the name on that one? I can put the word out.
It's called Session Blend. It's got a blue label.
Okay.
It's a 5-year too, which is kind of great for the price point.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a blend of 2 bourbons, and it's different than it's not. A lot of people think it's blenders cut at a lower proof point. It's actually not. It's a different ratio of the 2 bourbons, and it was geared more towards like people like my mom who can't really handle 115 proof, to be honest with you.
Right.
Our friends, or it was geared towards cocktail bars too, so you can use it in a cocktail really well.
What's the proof point on that guy?
90.
Oh, nice. That's perfect.
It's just
a great price too.
Yeah, it's a solid like bourbon you can either sip, you can make a cocktail with, and you don't have to think too hard. That was my goal with it. All my other whiskeys, you have to you get into it and you think and you nerd out on it, but sometimes you just want to just kind of sit down and enjoy something, man. Not
right.
Yeah, that's what this other bourbon represents. It's called Session Blend, hence the name Sessions. You can session it.
So look forward to Sessions hitting your shelves soon for what sounds like a really good $40 bottle.
Especially for a 5-year MGP. That's unheard of nowadays.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Great question.
All right, David. Watch out for if you win this raffle coming up soon.
Yeah, I might need DM you about those samples anyway. So all right. Later.
Cheers.
Oh goodness.
There's some great questions going on.
Oh, absolutely. Michelle said she was still working on it. I really hope she figures that out. All right, so you put out a Lost Nectar rum finished in ex-bourbon cask. What region of the world is the rum from?
All right, so as always, all my answers are long. It's because I make some of those complicated things, I swear. So Lost Nectar is I actually, honestly, to get it all correct, I'd have to look at the side of the bottle myself. But they're rums from Trinidad, Venezuela, Jamaica, and the USVI that I brought here. Some of them were aged already up to 5 years. Some of them were white rums, completely neutral still. I brought them here, and I aged them in Oloroso sherry, ex-bourbon. Oh, gosh, what else did I do on the back of that one? Cognac. And I think there was one other finish for the Lost Nectar. Oh, the reason why I'm confused with it is because the next round I'm doing more types of rum with more finishes. I've added in Pedro Jimenez, I've added Pinot de Chiron, I've added in, not all to the blend, but like from my spice cabinet of rums that I could pull from to develop the next version of it. I've added in several new finishing casks or aging casks. They're going to continue to age for years in them. But yeah, so they're from 4 regions currently. I might be adding in Martinique in the future, which will be fun because I really like Martinique rums. And then aged in, I believe that one, like I said, was 3 different distinct cask types, maybe into 4. I just can't remember. It's been a while since I picked that bottle up.
Yeah. Well, JD, if you're able to jump on and show not only where you are, but your collection, dude, you stopped me dead in my tracks when you sent me that picture earlier. Forgotten One sounds tasty. What is it?
The Forgotten One is a 16-year bourbon. I released it this last spring. Yeah, this last spring. Yeah, and it was actually a Tennessee bourbon that I aged for 4 years in Malmsey and Sicil Madeira casks, which are two opposite ends of the spectrum. They're like Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez almost, but for Madeira. Yeah, I actually started that one pre-pandemic. One of my first ever exploratory cask release after the initial Oloroso sherry was Madeira. I love Madeiras, and I only release them every couple years. But this year I did the 16-year-old, so it's 4 years in the Madeira casks.
Okay. So Lee runs a liquor store here in Washington State, and he says, "Can you switch distributors, please?" I'm sure. So, based off your reaction, I'm sure you know exactly what he's talking about.
Hey, if you ever have recommendations, let us know. We'll see what we can always do. Distributorship in Washington State's we do find a lot of success with our distributor currently, but you know, there's always hiccups. Distribution's not always easy, but we love our reps.
Let's see. You guys are talking about some things you're doing together. It's freaking great. Love it. Awesome info and stream. Best interview. Aw, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. Tommy D, I motioned to you earlier without the words because they were talking, but I appreciate you being here, Tommy D. And Ben, are you ready back there? Yeah, good. Yeah, dude, you got the eyebrows though. What's up, Ben?
I'm ready, but are you ready for me?
Are you ready for me? Yeast strains, yep, and whiskey, yep.
So you want the serious question first or the non-serious question first?
After I say, so before we even went live, you can look in the video description. The link to the website and the link to your Instagram is already in there in the description. So if you guys aren't following them and if you want more info on the website, you can find those links there. Ben, I love you, man. I'm grateful you're here. So Ben is on the East Coast, so it's late as heck where he's at. And he is up just because he is a friend of mine, and I appreciate you, man.
Hey, cheers, Ben. Thank you.
Cheers. So, because I am uncensored and kind of a dick, I have to ask the funny question first, right?
Ask the funny question. I'll see how I can handle it.
Why do you hate Bart Simpson so much?
Sorry, say that again.
Why do you hate Bart Simpson so much?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Why would I hate Bart Simpson?
It didn't hit.
My head. What's that?
I'm sad it didn't hit.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Consider it a late night. I've been traveling for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's no good. You ever see The Simpsons?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay. Do you ever see Sideshow Bob?
Oh my gosh. Oh, of course. Okay. All right. A personal thing. I get you. Okay. Hey.
All right. Well, I mean, look at this mess. All right?
Oh,
all
I
right,
totally love it.
All right. So
no,
now
really
I'm going to a question, right?
Here's my
I have a
side
small
crazy.
problem. I have a small problem with this bottle of Alter Ego.
It came empty.
Yeah, it's a small problem with it. So
it had a hole in it. It had a hole in it.
Yeah, well, I was planning on upgrading to the cask strength. However,
oh no way! Yeah.
I've actually been shied away from it a little bit, and I was wondering, are there different batches of it? Is there anything different about the cask strength than the regular? Because this is obviously kind of crushable.
So yeah, this is you have no idea how happy I am. One, that you made a comment on my hair because I get it all the time. So woohoo! Two, that you said the word crushable because that's literally when I came up with that blend 3.5 years ago. I said, "Hey guys, this was going to be crushable," and I just dropped it on the desk in front of all my coworkers, and we all just drank it, and we're like, "Why is this so easy to drink? Why is it so good?" It's just yes. So thank you for saying crushable. I love it. I just always shy away from those words because people are like, "That's not very classy."
Do I look classy?
Uncensored.
I just got back from a whole bunch of whiskey trips. As you can see, there's my whiskey's behind. Here's a
Yes. Oh, I love it. Oh, there's so many good mixers back there too. Anyways.
Oh,
yes.
the new one? Yeah. That just. Oh shit. That's other.
Yes. Oh, okay. Envious. Anyways, no. So to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. So So all of them have a different release number on them. They're all blended within about 1% of the ratio each time to try and compensate for like various flavor profile differences. But keep in mind, everything we do with Doc Swinson's is we're trying to progress and make it better or equal to the last time we released it. And that's not always, you can't always best yourself. So the goal is to try and create like all of our black labels to be as consistent as possible. But it's still small batch blending. So there are various differences between the finishing casks that we get. We try and, once again, like mitigate some of those by our blending techniques and making sure that the ratios still stay somewhat true.
I'm not worried about the ratio though. I'm more wondering, is there a big difference between the cask strength and this?
Okay, I understand. I'm getting you now. Yeah, so the cask strength really is when we take the 3 different types of casks, we blend them together in a big foeder, and then it marries in there before we slowly add water to it over time. The cask strength addition really just is before we add any water to it, and it is more bold. It is more aromatic in quality, I would say, and it really touches, I think, a little bit more on the cognac, whereas this one I think touches more on the Pedro Jimenez and the Oloroso. So you get more of those cognac expressions out of it.
Got it. So somebody who's a cognac head would probably be all over, a little more to the cask strength, but somebody like me that's fat and likes PX, it's gonna go to the.
I've only released the cask strength once, so I don't know if I'll do it again. Maybe not.
It's still available here. So,
that's incredible. Well,
and then is there any thoughts to a straight PX finish?
So I do one. So earlier Lamente was brought up in the live stream, and so I just have this. I have a terrible way of naming things with really complicated names that nobody understands and or don't speak the language of, etc. So my mistake. I'm learning and I'm trying to do things that are a little bit more easy to remember, like Reefer Madness or Smoke on Water. Like these are things that are a little more memorable. I'm learning my path here. Okay, as a branding
marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning the marketing side. Like it's not my background. So to answer your question though, yes. So I release what's called the Mind, Body, and Spirit, and I release them usually once a year. And that is l'esprit, which is the spirit in French, which is the cognac. La mente, right, is the mind, and that is the oloroso. El cuerpo is the body, and that's the Pedro Jimenez.
But a lot of your releases are regional, right?
Yes, that's the other thing. Because we're such a small group, a lot of the times the releases are only a few barrels. Sometimes upwards of 15 or 20, just depends. Like the Bossa Nova, I did 16 barrels of last time.
Where are those generally released?
So we choose different markets each time.
Mm-hmm.
We try and distribute them as best as we can to different states. Of course, it's assuming the state's willing to take it. Sometimes our distributors don't want to deal with something new, so they don't always make it there. Unfortunately, we don't have a great way to track exactly where all of our releases are to this day, like what stores they're in, because we don't get that feedback very easily. But what I can do is I can take a note and I can try and find it for you and send that over to Mark to get to you. The other thing you can do, I'm taking my notes right now, is they're probably sold out online. But follow us, on Instagram if you can. I know. It's like the best way to know.
Hunting. I'm really not worried about it. I'll find it now that I know it exists.
I was just gonna say, yeah, our site online, you can usually buy the bottles when we release them. We always reserve 10 cases for our online shop at a minimum. But since that we're switching to a new online retailer, actually what they're doing is they're pulling from stores all over the country for you.
You're going to Flavier?
No, Thirsty.
Thirsty.
Yeah, they're like, so our last one was
I've heard of Grizzly and I've heard of Drizzly and.
So this is for producers. So you have to be like
okay.
manufacturer. So what they'll do is we still have a website platform through them. We post it. It looks like all of our stuff. It looks like we ship everything. We don't. We can't do that. So what'll happen is you go there. You go through our website. You click on the bottles you want, and what
THIRSTIE.
Yes.
Okay.
What they're going to do is they're going to source the bottle from all the different retailers in the different areas to get it to the most amount of states that ship to it. So there's a good chance it might come from like Sailbacks, for example.
Right. So they haven't actually gone live yet?
I can't confirm if we've fully switched over yet.
Oh, not you. I mean in general. Or are they a back end for you then?
They're a back end for us. Yeah.
Ah, got it. So you won't necessarily be able to tell who's using them.
No, correct. Yes. It's
Got
all
it.
about it. Yeah, good question.
I will say one other thing, a comment, not a question.
Yeah.
Is I got one of the weirdest notes on one of the whiskeys we got here from you on anything I've ever tried.
Oh, which one?
Was the peated rye.
Smoke on water, yeah. What was the note? I'm really curious.
Green bell peppers.
Yes. So to me, it was roast hatch chili peppers. But yeah, same thing. It's bell pepper. Yeah, absolutely. It's the green pepper.
Yeah. I was like, I actually a store had a sample bottle of it. They had opened one of each. They gotten that and I forget which other release and
probably Tracy. Those were my two strangers.
And but that one was just like I don't know if I want to drink a bottle of this, but this is the most bizarre note I've ever got on a whiskey.
Not that many people have successfully released a peated Scotch quarter cask or a peated Scotch cask finish. So I always say the quarter so you know where I get it from. But anyways, it's definitely an interesting one. And it's probably one of the most harebrained ones I've released yet until Reefer Madness comes out.
Wait, what is it?
Reefer Madness is the next edition. And it's rye, rum, and peated Scotch quarter casks. I have some extra quarter casks.
Does it get a little bit of herbal quality?
It does. It's just really fun. It's let's just say it's more on the tobacco side of things, spliffy kind of thing.
Green tobacco, got it.
Yeah, it's jazz lettuce or whatever. It's just
a little bit of that Pacific Northwest love. Got it.
Oh my gosh, I know that would have been maybe a better name for it. I don't know.
Dude, it's so big up here, man. Come on.
I know. And there is no association with the green stuff in this product. It's just funny. So, anyways, that's gonna be coming out. But yeah, that's so. I'm glad you said that because that's
outside in the background.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Get rid of me.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, BourBen. Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy. Appreciate you.
It's only 1 in the morning here. It's no big deal.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Cheers.
Wanderberg, you just disappeared. I was about to just go to you. Wanderberg's been back there for like the past 5 minutes, and like as soon as we're all right, TRob's in the house.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How y'all doing, man?
I'm doing good.
So I don't have a lot of experience with Doc Swinson's. I did have some alter ego last year that I really liked.
Yeah.
But I will say this Bossa Nova, that thing is crazy, dude. That is a cinnamon bomb, man. That thing is so good.
Oh, it's so good to see. This has been the bottle that's gotten the most chatter of anything this year, which is just totally wild. I mean, I see why. It's literally like a Cinnabon right out of the oven.
It is, man. It is so different from anything I've had, but man, it's just got the flavor and the sweetness, but it's not overly sweet, but it just lingers and goes all the way through.
The sweet cinnamon, like the brown cinnamon, not the red cinnamon.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, when I got those barrels when they first showed up, I mean, they're gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning casks. And you touch the barrel and your fingers will smell like that for literally you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be like, what is going on? And just the outside of the barrel. The first time I ever tried that, I looked at my assistant Garrett, and I'm like, "Is this bourbon or spice rum?" Like a really good spice.
Yeah,
rum.
it does. Yeah, it really has that. Yeah.
Don't let that. I hope that doesn't ruin your experience with it, because I know.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. I agree, man. It is so spicy, man. It's like I said, it's one of the wildest ones I've ever had, but it is so good. I think.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a really fickle barrel to work with, because you have to be quick with it. You have to pay attention to it. You literally have to watch it like a hawk. Otherwise, it can get really medicinal.
Yeah. You don't want it to get over. Yeah.
It could just completely obliterate the bourbon.
Right.
And the funny thing is that one's an interesting one, because I've noticed all my other whiskeys, they don't really develop in the bottle very much. That one still develops a little bit, which is really fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
I've had mine open for a little bit, and I mean it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not as cinnamon forward as it was when I first opened it, but it's still just it's smooth. It doesn't drink its proof. I mean it's what
112.6 or something.
Yeah, 0.8.
0.8, yeah.
Yeah, and but it drinks like a 100. Low 100s. I mean, it's so easy all the way through, and the thing that I like about that is because it's not so overpowering, you can really pick out the flavors as it transitions through. And even when it gets down to your chest, I mean, you get a little bit of that hug, but it's not aggressive. It's just kind of
more warm and pleasant.
Yeah. You get the warmth. You get, oh man, that's just so good.
That's so good to hear. Thank you. I mean,
absolutely, man. I have enjoyed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So TRob, did you have a question to get on the wheel, or you just wanted to come share some love, man?
No, I just wanted to jump on. I saw that you had Jesse on, and and like I said, I've had limited experience with the Doc Swinsons, but everything I've tried, I've really liked. But this Bossa Nova just really blew my mind, man. So I just wanted to give him kudos for that, man, putting that out.
Cheers up. Thank you. No, always great to hear. That one was maybe one of the most nervous things I've ever put on the market, because I was like, this is so different.
All right.
And
really, TRob, give Jesse some love, man.
Give him the guns. Look at that.
Gun show. Hey, cheers, buddy.
Man.
I'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Oh, I freaking love that guy.
That was really sweet.
Wanderberg, what's up, girl?
Hi. Can you guys hear me now? Yay, finally.
I thought we were going to get to the raffle and I not hear you all night. Come on. Like, don't do me. Don't put me on the edge of my seat like that. Come on.
Okay. Well, I'm drinking Tawny Port right now.
Whoa, I've never seen so many Tawny Ports in one sitting. Awesome. That was
so
one of my favorite races.
Yeah. One of the reasons I picked this was because Fred Minnick spoke highly of this. Wow. Do you think there's a bottle that you think it's going to be like the next whiskey of the year from Doc Swinson?
So I can say this actually from this year won Best Finished Bourbon in America at San Francisco International Spirit Awards, which is the French Toasted. So which, if you haven't found, which is actually this bottle right here. It's great. It literally says French Toasted on it. And it also won Bourbon of the Year at, not New York. It was a competition in New York, but the Bartender Seal of Approval Award. This one's a journey. Just like Bossa Nova is a journey, French Toasted is like this epically long journey that just keeps giving and giving and giving. And if you deep dive into the first of the virgin cask finishes I did. So that was a brand new, it was multiple, brand new Quercus Petrea, which is very different than what most people consider to be French oak, like what they talk about in the industry. So it's a tight grain versus a wide grain. So most people talk about Quercus Robur, which is the other French oak. That's when people say French oak, they mean Quercus Robur. I use Quercus Petrea.
So nobody else knows that. I'm just
know.
saying.
I love talking about it because the whole thing is like maturation matters so much, and we don't talk
Right.
about it a lot in American whiskey production, which is kind of mind blowing.
I didn't know there was 2 different French oaks.
Yeah. Those are the 2 main. The funny thing is, Quercus petraea is more commonly grown. There's more of it in the world because it's more common European oak, but it's the other French oak, and it's commonly used because one, it takes like almost nearly twice as long for the tree to mature. It grows in like much more intense conditions. So it's like, when you hear about grapevines that grow in like really hardy conditions, produce the best flavors. Now, I can't say this makes the best flavors, but it makes really good ones that are different than, more pampered vines, which is kind of what's happening with Quercus Robur versus Quercus petraea.
Well, the grapes that I tasted in Afghanistan tasted way different than American grapes. Way different.
Okay. Well, I have one more question for you. And do you think there is a bottle that deserves more love?
Oh my God, all of them. No, that's actually a really good question. That's something I think that we're trying to figure out ourselves. I think
what is your most underrated bottle? Yeah, that's a great question.
You know what? I'm gonna have to give it back to it was Steven, I think, right? It's the rye. It's Solera Method Rye Finished Rum Cask. So many people say I don't like rye, and I'll taste them on it, and they say I guess I'm wrong. And not just me. Like, we hear this from all of our markets. Like, we get this all the time, especially from, it's really funny, our Southern California salesperson, he's like, I go to California all the time, and everybody in California, like bars, restaurants, stuff like that, are like, we don't like rye. We don't care about rye. And he'll taste them on our whole lineup. And you know what they end up buying the most of every single time? Solera Method Rye.
Oh.
I think that's the most underrated one. That's a great question you have, seriously, because one, it's cool because it's a Solera system. It's never fully emptied, so it's always progressing in profile. And it's a minimum of 7-year up to 9.5, almost 10-year now in that system for $60, I think, a bottle, something like that. In Washington, states are also different with their pricing. But yeah, I think it's the Solera Method Rye. And if you're afraid of rye, try it. I guarantee you'll like it. And if you don't, you could email me and tell me you don't. And I
wasn't a big rye person before, but I'm starting to, try more rye whiskeys. So maybe I'll try those next.
I think this is a good bridge too, because it incorporates the sweetness of rum, which brings it kind of closer to a bourbon, because that's bourbon's quite sweet in comparison. And this is a nice transition. So it's not like a really intense hearty rye. It's much more gentle, and especially because there's 2 rye mash bills in it, and one of them is high in corn. So it also brings in more of those bourbon characteristics. So I think that one is highly underrated.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Jesse.
That's great. Appreciate
Hey,
that.
I appreciate you, Michelle. I'm so glad you were able to come on and ask your question.
Yeah, I'm glad the audio
and,
finally
I hope you win something good in the raffle.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
All right. See you later.
Cheers.
Dude, I'm so glad Wanderberg was able to come on and ask the question.
That was I really appreciate that question because I don't really get that very often. And I'm a huge rye fan, so I think I did some justice to bring more people into the rye world. That's my goal. Drink rye too. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's a teeny market compared to bourbon, so
yeah. So this was like almost 20 minutes ago, but Chris, he works with Foregate a lot. I'm sure you know Foregate.
Mm-hmm.
He asked, where do you guys see Doc Swinson in the future, like 5 years from now?
5 years. That's actually something that we've I feel like as a company have been working on a little bit more internally and understanding where our growth is, and because things always have to change. But ultimately, I think what's next is continuing our trajectory in American whiskey. As we are really focusing on finishing, as well as just some really excellent straight bourbons, which we have. We'd like to grow our brand name with focusing on our more introductory bourbons as well, because that's a different side of the market that we haven't really dabbled in as much.
Right.
But as far as the really fun stuff, it's developing maybe some of our own custom mash bills, because we have that. We're working on that ability to do so. Work with MGP to produce something that's truly unique to us. And distilling is not off the table for us, but I don't think it's definitely not in our 3 or 4 year trajectory.
Right. So not short-term goal, but maybe a long-term goal.
Yeah,
because when I think of short-term goals, I think of 5 years or less. Long-term goals are like 10 years and possibly out from there.
I would say that's more in the long term for certain. We really like blending whiskeys. We love the partnerships that we have with MGP. I've worked, like I said, other distilleries as well in Kentucky as well as Tennessee. I've enjoyed all those partnerships, and honestly, they all make really good whiskey. And I like working with the people I get to work with. But I think really focusing more towards just bringing out more profiles and making finished whiskey more popular and more of commonplace in the American whiskey market.
So this was one of my straightforward basic questions. If it doesn't come up during the show, we want to know it. On my list here, Ben asked it. When was Doc Swinson's created? Like, what was the first year of distillation? Like, or I mean, of your
2017 is when Doc Swinson's, the name and everything was incorporated when we started bottling it. Everything
2017.
Was 2017. We didn't really launch it until 2020 though. That's why that's a two-part answer.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. So does that make sense? So we just kind of sold it in a few spots, just little here and there. We didn't make a lot, just a few barrels. We made maybe 40 barrels a year maximum. And then what we ended up doing is introducing the brand with our 15-year Kentucky bourbon. So we just kind of dropped that in the market and said, here you go. Here's a brand you've never really heard of or probably ever have. And it's a 15-year bourbon for what was a really great price at the time, which is probably still a great price today.
What's up, Scott?
How's it going, man?
It's going well. Good to see you, buddy.
So I have a question.
It's late. It's late where you're at over there in Nebraska.
It's almost 1 o'clock, 10 to 1.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my question is, not outside of anything that you released, what bottles are you going for? Like, so it doesn't have to be whiskey either. It can be any kind of alcohol.
My gosh.
It could be whiskey too. But.
So I'm not the biggest hunter in the world. I can tell you that. I'm really terrible actively hunting for bottles. But as I come across them in the market, I tend to pick them up. Let's put it that way. But I will say I'm a huge fan of rum. So I tend to go and hunt down rums and Armagnacs as well, but mostly rums.
So like Foursquare?
I love Foursquare. In fact, I actually met some of the guys the last week in a tasting in Arizona, of all things, that at least bring it into the country, which is kind of cool. So I'm stoked to go down there one of these days. I like the Coronis as well. So like the more limited bottlings that are unique from each distillery.
Sure.
Kind of like what we do, right? Like blending. They're not usually blending them. They're usually like single origin. Like the Boutique Rum Company does some awesome stuff, just like they do with their Scotch. I really like South American rums, but I don't find them as often as I wish. And it's usually just from people I've met in the industry who sometimes have a bottle and will trade out or something like that. As far
do you
as
like to kind of, in your blending, do you like to kind of pick the rum notes in some of the things, or not really?
What do you mean by that? Like
when you're in Doc Swinson's products, like, do you ever like try to find the rum notes?
Yeah, totally.
Rum influence?
Absolutely. Especially with like Solera method, for example, and as well as like the Lost Nectar when I'm blending my own, is like there's things that are so unique to the origin of that rum, and then it also has that twist of like American whiskey. That's what makes Lost Nectar particularly interesting. I think is because it's blended more like a whiskey, even though it's a rum. So it's a good bridge into rums if you're not used to rums yet. And then to top it off, as far as whiskeys though, I'm always looking for really fun finishes. I like what I'm seeing, like for example, like what Lefroy put out, the Cardias this year was a white port, which was really fun. Those are the things I more or less hunt if I
feel like more Scotch or
just whiskeys that push the profile with a finishing cask. So it could be bourbon, it could be Canadian, it could be Irish, it could be actually, also some corn whiskeys from Mexico have been really fun. That's been kind of a bigger thing to corn, because if anybody's got the weirdest corn or the coolest corns, it's Mexico. It's the origin place. So Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's specifically brands. It's more just, ooh, that's like sounds like a fun finish, or that sounds like a really interesting blend that I haven't thought of.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Hey, I appreciate you, Scott. Thanks for coming by,
Yeah,
buddy.
thank you.
I already threw you up in the wheel, so I hope you win something good.
All right, cool.
I will say I do hunt those Bardstowns. Those ones I hunt the most, to be honest with you, just because I love what they do.
Yeah. There was up here. I guarantee if you ask Jesse, he will say if you create a tasting to a person's palate, the customer will enjoy the rye over the curated bourbon. I don't know, Chris, man. I can't think of a rye that I prefer over my favorite bourbons.
I mean, order of operations and tasting is a big thing. That is totally true too. I don't know if that touches on that subject particularly well, but it's always interesting if you taste people in certain directions, what they usually end up liking. Sometimes you can kind of tell ahead of time.
All right. I'm at work.
Ah.
This will be putting sports drinks.
Kiona cask. Wow.
Right, so, do you want to talk about this for a minute? Because I want to run out and do
Sure.
a quick run out. If you want to address this, and then as soon as I get back in like 90 seconds, we can do the wheel and the raffle.
Yeah, I could talk about this one. There's actually another question. I just realized I have my comments section here. I'm really bad at this whole like.
Oh, dude, yeah, I meant to ask you if on the right of your screen if you could see the comments.
I totally just clicked over on it. This is actually grand. The funny thing is somebody says Rana Zalco in there. I used to actually bottle that. I know Karthik pretty well. Yeah, so that's actually really funny. Anyways, yeah, Kiona cask. I would like to do another round of it. I've done 2 rounds of Kiona cask in the past. Last year it got us like 2nd place at San Francisco Spirit Awards, which was kind of fun. And then it was taken with the French Oak this year. I love working with wine as well, like non-fortified wines. They just take a lot more time, typically than the fortified wines do, which is sometimes a problem when you're a small company. Even though most of our finishes are like 7 months to like 2 years, anyways. The Kiona, that one was about 18 months or so. I'm actually working on a Napa Valley Cabernet finish right as we speak, and I think it might be out in spring. Yet to decide how it's going to finish itself out over winter, but I think I'll release that one in spring. That's the Tierra Roja, which is just really rich and delicious. And it's finally actually developing over this last summer exceptionally well. But yeah, I'd like to, the family at Kiona Vineyards and I have a working relationship to get some more barrels when the time is right, because what happens with Kiona in particular, which is kind of cool, I actually will communicate with them. They do a dump that very morning when I'm driving there with a truck and trailer. I pick up the barrels right as they've been dumped, bring them all the way back to the facility, and fill them with whiskey immediately. There is no downtime for spoilage. There's no sulfuring, nothing like that. No cleaning of the barrel. That one's a really fun one to do because it's a race across the state. We're in opposite corners of Washington. It I think produces such a beautiful bouquet. And the barrels that they use are absolutely great. I mean, those are stunning casks. The last ones I got were a Lane Cooperage out of France, and they're just money. So yeah, I hope to pick up some more of those barrels actually probably the next 3 months or so. So it means you got to wait probably 2 years until I release it. But yes, it'll be another probably 18 months, I imagine. Maybe not. I'm not sure yet. Sometimes an earlier age on their cask works really well too. So somewhere around like 3 to 6 months works beautifully as well. Yeah, it just depends on how it's developing.
All right. So as Marvin says, it's getting late. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go over to the wheel. Let's see. Let's Stop screen. All right, so we are going to get into the raffle. There was a good show up tonight. I appreciate all you guys coming on and asking your great questions to Jesse to talk about what they got going on over at Doc Swinson's. And so right now we have the Wheel of Names.
I love it.
And so all of you that have come on tonight to ask a question, you guys have been entered into the Wheel of Names. Let's see if I can get this size just right so we can see your names. And still see the wheel nice and big.
Oh, this is fun.
And so as you guys already know, let me take the wheel off real quick. So I have a single barrel bourbon pick that is 122 proof, along with the blender's cut, which is absolutely phenomenal for the price, especially, and that is 115 proof. And the Alter Ego, which is a triple cask. It's very comparable to any other cigar blends you've had, including Joseph Magnus. And so you are going to get a sample of all three of these in what I'm going to send you. And Jesse has some things he's going to send you as well. But so first roll of the dice. The first winner is going to get a sample of all three of these. And then we are going to go on to what Jesse's got in store for you. All right, so the first winner of a flight of Doc Swinson's is Wanderberg. Awesome.
Yay! Congratulations.
Awesome. So, Michelle, you will get a sample of all the Doc Swinsons that I have, and I appreciate you jumping on and asking Jesse some great questions. All right, so hold on, let me take this off. So, Jesse, what have you got for the next winner?
So I think we decided something along the lines of a hat.
Ooh.
So Doc Swinson's on it, bourbon and rye.
Nice,
So we got
nice.
And a Doc Swinson's. Oh, there it is. Official tasting glass. The Glencairn. And what do we were going to package this with anything else? Probably. Why not make it worth it? We got these sweet glasses over here. Let's say Doc Swinson's on the side.
Dude, Doc Swinson's sunglasses. I cannot believe you guys have your own sunglasses. That is freaking awesome. Who is going to be taking that home? Oh, Scott's going to get it. All the way to Nebraska. Awesome. Good show. You want to do one more of those?
Yeah.
Jesse, yeah? All right,
Yeah,
so there's gonna be one more winner that gets a Glen sunglasses and a hat.
Sunglasses and a hat. Yeah, we could do that again. Also, I totally forgot. I also have playing cards. So the last person, Scott, you can also get playing cards too.
Oh, nice.
So we'll do that same setup again. Because why not?
Oh, I need to be writing these down so I can talk to you about it tomorrow.
I'm taking my notes too.
BourBen!
BourBen, nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, so Wanderberg got a flight. All right, I'm going to do one more flight. I'm going to do another flight. All right, so next winner gets a flight of the three different offerings that I have. That's the Samoan Barkeep. I gone and told him that I was going to give him one already. And so Scribe at the Spirits. I like it. All right. All right. So, Sam, I'll send you one of each of the variants that I have up here. You just got to send me your email address. Good stuff. All right. So, if you were a winner tonight, make sure you send us your email and with your contact information, address, things like that.
Otherwise, I'll have to wear all these hats.
Yep. And so, like I told you before we came on here,
which I could probably use.
If we didn't get to it before the end of the stream, you've got a couple new things coming up. One you already hit on is the sessions. The sessions is a lower price offering for like a $40 bottle for people that are either new to the label or whatnot. But you also have a new Bossa Nova coming out, don't you?
Yeah, Mark. No, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, so Bossa Nova, the next round of it, I wanted to release differently than the first. And the first one was a blend of our two mash bills. They're aged separately and then blended later together to make that profile. Yeah. This one I'm going to release as single barrels. And it's going to be the individual mash bill. So they will exhibit slightly different flavor qualities. Some are a little bit more fruity and some are a little bit more spicy, which is kind of fun. So those will be coming out depending on which distributors are going to pick it up, which is kind of like we actually kind of threw them all in the ring with basically a bunch of knives, so to speak, to see who gets them. And that'll be reported over the next couple weeks, actually, who's picking those barrels. But they should be coming out sometime in October. Yeah, sometime in October.
Okay, right on. So if any of you guys want to join us in the backstage, we're going to wrap it on up. People saying congrats to the winners. I appreciate you guys sticking on this long. We've been streaming for a while, and you guys have just been hanging out, drinking whiskey with us, and talking about what's going on at Doc Swinson's. And so I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you guys. Are you in the Discord? I can message you there. Dude, yeah, totally. Include me in that, because I obviously am not in there already. Jesse, send Mark my shades. Okay, so
I love it.
Appreciate you, BourBen. Thank you, Mark and Jesse. Rob, thanks for being here, buddy. So all of you guys joining us live right now, if you want to click on the join and jump in the backstage, we're about to go to the backstage, and so we can just kind of chit chat for a minute offline before we cut out for the night. Let's see. There's still a bunch of people here, man. I appreciate all you guys watching. Troy, I'm gonna solo you. So if you've got anything you want to put out to the people that are still watching us live, that is all you. Hey, Jesse?
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to put out to the guys that are still watching us live, go ahead. I'm going to solo you for a minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the great questions. I can't say I've ever really had this kind of back and forth with this roulette. So thanks you so much, Mark, for having me on here. This has been awesome. Appreciate you all supporting Doc Swinson's and taking a chance on some awesome whiskey. So anyways, cheers. I hope to do it again with y'all, and y'all got to get together to come up here one day, and we'll do a little private tasting because we don't normally have a tasting room.
Awesome. Hey, Jesse, thanks for coming on the show again. And it was a blast hanging out and talking whiskey with you, along with all of you guys that are still watching us live. And so any of you guys that want to join us in the back room, go ahead and jump on. And for those of you watching the replay, appreciate you making it this long into it. And make sure you're drinking more water than whiskey. Take care of yours and yours around you. Or protect and enjoy. Cheers.
Hey, cheers to that. Thanks so much, Mark.
Mm-hmm.